Guys, XRP Theorist here, back with another video. Today I want to show you guys about David Schwartz, the XRP genius. So I'm on Twitter scrolling through today and I come across this tweet that is shared. And as we could see, David Schwartz, on the last video I made, he basically stated that XRP needs to go up high in order to deal with problems that are big and the problems that are upcoming. So obviously we know that they're onto big projects, and with those big projects we need huge prices. So today I want to show you guys this tweet. So he states he was actually talking to a person within the Twitter community, and it was in regards to the Q3 reports, and he says, the volatility of XRP over the minute or so, the payment take is... Sorry guys, this isn't the one I wanted to read. What the hell is going on here? No problem with smaller payments or remittances. Oh, right here. Okay, as you buy, the prices go up. So the sender has to buy high, the recipient sells, pushing price down. Sender pays more, recipient gets less. So payment larger than available liquidity have high cost. High volume, smaller payments do not have this problem. So what he's saying here, guys, is when he states right here, so payments larger than available liquidity have high cost, that is showing back to what I showed you guys in that video with the supply being 40 billion circulating at the moment. And it goes hand in hand to what I said, how he said, you know, bigger costs are going to take XRP a higher price to tackle with bigger things. And that he's basically saying, in other words, that the supply is small for what they're trying to do. And that's what he's saying. So payments larger than available liquidity have high cost. That if there's a tremendous amount of high payments coming through the banking systems, the liquidity, the pool itself, it's not going to have funds available. Because we need it where, like I said, 5,000 XRP is $500,000, guys. And as we go down here, he explains further. He says if you want to use XRP to bridge a payment, someone has to hold that XRP until you need it. If that market is large and competitive, that means lots of people are. That's one of the three. Okay, he said one of the two, but he makes 3 or 4 points. Then he goes with 2 out of the 3. That also means you could roughly have payment costs by holding XRP. So volatility comes down. Those who don't know what assets they need next have reasons to hold XRP. So he's saying, and going back to what he said on Reddit about, I don't know, a year ago, he said, you know, if people are always going to hold XRP for future, when this becomes regular within institutions, they're always going to hold XRP for future payments, especially if they do a lot of business in a specific country that's cross-border. They're going to hold it. So you always have to add a multiplier to the price. So for an example, if XRP, he says, is going to be $20 if we take over volumes of all cross-border payments or a majority of cross-border payments, you could say that it's going to be about $20, but then you have to add a multiplier to that for the people that are always going to hold. And it's not for money reasons or capital gain. It's all for reasons of doing business in the future. They're going to hold their XRP. That's going to limit the actual liquidity that's available. The video I had made in regards to the 40 billion circulating and XRP being at $1 would be $40 billion. This is basically solving that, guys, because with volumes of $2 trillion a day if we take over Temenos. I know I keep repeating Temenos, but that's a key player. With those kind of volumes, guys, a day, we know for a fact that $40 billion isn't going to do us any justice here. And that's what he means by this. And I'll show you exactly that's what he means. That said, the price of XRP seems to be driven by the crypto market generally, and price movements seem to come from exchange and use more than anything else. So then this guy had asked, this Lewis Walden, he says the price will only be driven by speculators then. The actual use of XRP running through XRP will be an even wash. My understanding was that you could have orders on the books backing up the system, and the demand for XRP could increase, but it doesn't sound like that happens. Then David Schwartz goes on to reply and says, not speculative, competitive global pools of liquidity people contribute to and draw off to dramatically cut payment costs in interconnect economies. So he said, Lewis says, would banks or payment providers put extra liquidity into it so they could send larger payments? Sorry, just trying to understand. This is honestly the first serious investment I've ever had. So then David Schwartz goes on to respond to that. And he says, I'll show you guys quickly, sorry. This should be the fourth one we should be on here, guys. He says right here, anyone with ideal money or money they need to move, but not in a hurry, and take note of this, guys, because this is what I've been talking about. Market becomes more competitive and effective when your counterparties aren't largely speculators and arbitrators. Okay, so then he goes on, I believe these circular set of causes and effects can be driven a high liquidity and lower volatility direction by introduction of market takers who aren't speculators or arbitrators. This is something I really don't know. How much volume will add how much liquidity or have how much effect on volatility? I'm optimistic because today I think almost all market takers are speculators or arbitrators. I guess we'll find out. So he goes on to say that the volatility of XRP over the minute, so the payment takes, is negligible. So the problem is that big guys buy and sell and move the market against you. So big payments await greater liquidity. No problem with smaller payments like remittances, even in high volume. Guys, what he basically brings on to is this is the main point. And I want you guys, again, to take note of this. Bridging larger payments with XRP is possible now, but the need for both ends to buy and sell slowly to avoid the moving market against them makes it much less attractive. But high volume payments are fine. Now, what he's saying is we need to stay within that pool. The pool has to have funds available at all times. And the only way we're going to do that with the amount of supply and the amount of volumes that are coming in is have a surge in price. If the price is higher, we got 5,000 XRP being $500,000, and yet we have a 40 billion circulating. But there's not always going to be 40 billion circulating because there's going to be people holding. So if you have that in half, as he said, that's 15 billion within circulation, or 20 billion within circulation. And that within that 20 billion, that needs to work for a $2 trillion or more within time volume a day, which means liquidity pools have to have available liquidity, which is the liquidity is XRP within the pool. The only way they're going to have available liquidity at all times, just like banks have available fiat being money at all times in a pool, as I said before, is with a surge in price, guys. And if the surge happens, then we'll have available liquidity within that 20 billion or 15 billion, for example, at all times in a pool. There'll be, always 10, 5 billion. There'll always be moving circulation because the price will be high, where $2 to $10 trillion is like, say, for an example, 20 million or 50 million XRP when there's 15 billion in the pool. And that's how it has to work. And that's what he's saying. And then this guy even makes a comment. So really, until the price of XRP is driven up higher, we know there can't be millions of dollars transferred at any given time of the day. Right here, he says the liquidity just isn't there right now. I guess that's FYIs are currently focused on the $100 remittances. See, exactly what I mean. You can't transfer huge funds in a day of millions and millions and millions of dollars if it's at pennies, because it's not going to work based off of the supply. And that's what cancels out that supply thing where people say, oh, it's too much supply compared to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin's this much money because it's 17 million supply. Guys, Bitcoin's 17 million supply. It was never created for worldwide use. It was just created to be exchanged in between crypto market holders and crypto people. This is literally something they're using blockchain to serve world use and reality with. And that's why 40 billion is not a tiny little number, for what they're trying to serve. The volumes that it has, it would never, imagine if we had 17 million XRP tokens in circulating supply, we wouldn't make it. You'd have to have this thing sitting at like $20,000 in XRP to serve even think about attacking an issue like Temenos' 700 plus banks. with 500 million clients and 2 to 10 trillion in volume. This is the same thing, but in other words, we have 40 billion, it's doable, but we need a price surge in order to have an actual pool of liquidity at all times moving, because our rate right now, this might do a couple $1 million transactions at the same time, and you would run out within that second of those $1 million transactions, or hundreds of $1 million transactions. So that's his point he's trying to make. That's my video for today, guys, and hope you liked it. Thanks.